Hey, what's up, everybody? Before people start really panicking, obviously there's been a lot of downward momentum, a lot of capitulations to some extent. Bitcoin's still hanging strong. It's still above the reaccumulation zone. It's still above the bull market support band. The issue is that every little move Bitcoin goes down, the altcoins are very hypersensitive. So if Bitcoin goes down like a 0.5%, you could see some altcoins go down like 4, 5, 6, 7%. So they're hypersensitive to Bitcoin's movement. And what does that really mean? Well, it could mean that obviously a lot of these coins are finishing their fifth waves to the downside that we talked about, right? They've been in their ranges, and either the range could come down, sweep the low into Wyckoff, or it's going to go down into its fifth wave. And obviously, a lot of the coins are going down into their fifth wave. They're impulsing to the downside. Some of them are capitulating to the downside. And you can say, well, that's bad. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, right now it is bad, but that usually signals the bottom should be very close. If you go back to C19, when we had that big capitulation, right, that was the bottom. If you go back to the FTX capitulation, same thing. That was actually a local bottom. So we haven't had Bitcoin capitulation yet. That's a good thing. We want to see it actually go into this reaccumulation. I'm going to show you something. Watch this. This is Wyckoff Reaccumulation. So instead of a accumulation schematic, it's actually a reaccumulation schematic. And this is a common structure we see in fourth waves, basically coming up inside of a range, right? You could see we bounce to the upside, we come back down, we bounce to the downside, we come back up, we're playing around, we come down, we take out the low here. So a lot of faking out in here. And then we come back up to the top of the range, and then we kind of swoop down in here, right? It's a little bit different to the other schematics we're used to looking at because of this additional wave in here, but it's really kind of the same thing where you sort of have this spring in here inside phase C, but it's really not a spring. It's basically hashing out a bottom and what I call reaccumulation. So let me show you this right here, right? I know people aren't feeling good right now. I know people's portfolios are down. It feels uncomfortable, right? You don't like that feeling, but that's the feeling a lot of people get when they make decisions, right? During this time, every decision is going to matter for the next, years down the line. So what you decide now will affect your outcome years down the line. So, you got to think logically. Never, in my experience, is selling into capitulation a good idea because a lot of these coins, again, are in capitulation, which signals that a bottom is coming soon, right? Nothing goes down in a straight line forever. It's going to hash out. We talked about it. Just a real quick, an example here, like Filecoin. You can see that was a massive dump to the downside right here, right? We were talking about this range, and not just Filecoin, but you look at ADA, you look at, all of them basically look like this, where you have this range in here, and, is it going to break to the upside? Is it going to break to the downside? So inside this range, typically it breaks to the downside and it sweeps the lows into a Wyckoff and then it goes up. That was an idea, or this was simply, guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth wave should be finished, maybe a little bit lower, maybe even a little bit lower. But I think overall a bottom should be coming in here, right? It just doesn't make sense for the price to keep dumping. Obviously it can, right? Anything's possible. But from an Elliott wave perspective, from Bitcoin's perspective, being that it's in reaccumulation, right? The more oversold these altcoins get, the more exhausted they get to the downside, the more likely they are to start being, people start absorbing the supply again, right? So let me zoom out a little bit more. And what we can see here, right? What we can see here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we had this basically wave 1, and it looks like we're in wave 2. So, once we start hashing out a bottom, let's get into wave 3. Now, the problem is, right, if that was the case here, A, B, C, we go up, that's fine. But since we had this other leg, that means this is a 5-wave move, which increases the risk of it only being an A wave. So, for example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We come down in wave A, and we hash out a bottom in here, and then we start going up big time. We go up big time like this, but that's only a B wave, right? And then we have to come back down and maybe go back into reaccumulation and then start going to the moon, something like that. So that's going to be my new, that's going to be sort of an addendum to my main idea here, which is essentially, getting a reversal out of here, but then also we'll see if we get rejected here in the retracement levels. Because again, when you're at point A, like I always talk about, right? If you follow my channel, we're in point A, and then you have point B, right? So point A is pretty easy. Point B is pretty easy, right? So what normally happens when you get a big point between these two areas? You go back to the middle. You go back to the middle in here, right? And that is what I'm believing is going to happen. I'm believing that. I'm not saying it's going to happen today or tomorrow or even next week, but I want to see some time go by. Again, we talked about the summer months. Summer months are usually bad luck, right? They usually go down. It is early in the summer, which makes me think, well, maybe they're getting it over with fast, right? We'll see how that works. But yeah, if we have a 5-wave move down, we're not going to keep getting 5 waves. We're going to need some kind of ABC back up. And either we're going to get an A, B, C, and it's going to be very bearish, and then go, or it's going to be a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. We go sideways, and then we go. But all in all here, I think where we're at right now, I think, we might have a little bit more downside to go, but we're getting very close here to finding a bottom. Let's see. The retracement levels are, let's see here. I put that right there. Yeah, so we're already beyond the 786. So we should be getting very close. If I put it even closer, we're still beyond the 786. So we really, don't have much space here as far as the retracement levels. So you can see this bottom down here is support, right? I'm just using Filecoin as an example. You can say, well, who cares about Filecoin? But this is an example for all the charts out there. And then you also have all of this in here, which we're currently in now. So I want to see some type of bottom get formed in here, right? Maybe it has a little bit more down, but whatever the case may be, these are buying levels, guys. This is not the time to sell. If you were going to sell, you should have sold here, right? Maybe even here. But to sell at the bottom of a 5th wave after capitulation is like the worst thing you can do. Not financial advice. It could go to 0, right? You don't know. But just from a technical perspective, from my experience, that's not a good place. This is actually the time to buy, right? And you could say, well, I already bought over here and it went down. But hopefully, if you did that, you sort of, picked your spots and, dollar cost average. So if you have, say, $300 a month spending money, right? Did you put it all in one spot? Or maybe spread it out a little bit more. That's kind of the idea of what you want to do. So once this bottom gets hashed out, I want to see a retracement back to the upside. That gets us back towards, you can see the bull market support band, and it's actually falling down like this. It's actually going to make its way down. So I want to see a bottom get hashed out and then come back to this level here, because this level now is going to be strong resistance. So if, let's say, you want to get out of the market, say, you know what, I'm done. I want to get out. That's fair. What I would do is I would actually wait for the price to have a retracement and then get out, right? Because it could turn into a bigger retracement and into reaccumulation, whatever the case may be. I say time. We just need to allow this some time to, to develop. Now, let me show you something in Bitcoin. Okay, so here is our example. This is Wyckoff Reaccumulation, and you can see how beautiful I think it's playing out, right? So if this example is going to hold true for Bitcoin, which I think it has a very good chance of doing, then that fifth wave that we just talked about, that capitulation in the altcoins, the Filecoin example, that should be very close to a low, right? Maybe not right now, but it's very, very close, in my opinion, at least for a bounce back to the upside. If we get even more hardcore capitulation, then it's going to be because Bitcoin has taken out this low. If Bitcoin takes out that low, then we could have a lot more downside for these altcoins. But the more they get exhausted, the more likely they are to bounce. So I'm looking at this, right, ever since we were back over here, looking at an ABC, down to the bull market support band, which we got. And then we made our way back up into the retracement levels. We couldn't break this top here, right? We couldn't break this top. So one of the things I said was, well, we're most likely going down into reaccumulation. So looking at this move, we have A, B, C. We have a nice three-wave move back down into this yellow zone that we've been talking about for a while. But here's the thing. Getting back down into the zone, who would have thought, right, that the altcoins would have so much hypersensitivity, right? Just getting down to this, it's a small move. Like when I zoom out, it's relatively a small move. But for the altcoins, it was like most likely a finishing move, right? It was that finishing fifth wave. So let's walk through this a little bit here. So I believe that we're going into this range in here. So we haven't even made it to the range yet, really. I mean, we're basically on the top of the range. So we still have a lot of wiggle room to the downside. If I put this here all the way to there. So we have still another 6% left in the tank for Bitcoin if it really wanted to go down that 6%. And if you translate that to the altcoins, that could be, a little bit more than that. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, since they've already went down so much, some of them are still kind of holding up a little bit, like XRP. So we'll jump over there. But essentially, you have, right, this example here. You come up, right, and then you come back down, and then you make another, basically a double top. Same thing here. You come down. You come back up, you make a double top. And then what you do is you come back down, right? Same thing in the example. You come back down and look at this. This low was taken out right here. Same thing here. It was an ABC. The low got taken out. And then, right, you start making your way back to the upside. You make your way back to the upside to the resistance. So if this was a regular sort of a WXYXZ, remember that pattern, it should have stopped out right about here. So the fact that it actually met back up with these 2 points here, right? I mean, it's a perfect line right in here. Actually, let me put that line there so we can have it. So right there, it's actually perfect. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that line right at 71K, let's see, 71, yeah, about 71.5K is very, very important. And the altcoins are the market makers, right, engineered this line for a reason. So that line, I believe, is ultimately going to be broken. And that's also our neckline as well. If you looked at the Wyckoff, the inverse head and shoulders, that this is also potentially creating. But, as we make our way back up to this, we start going down into reaccumulation. So we have a rise, right? And then, this whole thing is a rise. This whole thing is a crash. Then we go up into then we go in our retracement. Then we come down into reaccumulation. That's exactly what I think is happening here. So as this comes down, we want to see it get held at this level here. So you see this little wave right here that comes down? That's this wave here. And you can see it actually takes out that low ever so slightly. So we'll see if that's the case here. But essentially, I'm going to draw what a potential pathway could look like. So maybe something like this, right? Where we get down in here, right? I want to, maybe make another low, get some bullish divergence, right? And then let me actually take this and put that right there. There we go. And then I'm going to take another one and put that right here so we can see it. There we go. So actually, yeah, so I want to do this here and that here, just so we know where we're at here. There we go. So looking at the daily chart, now we're looking at the 4-hour chart. And when I'm looking at the 4-hour chart, it doesn't have that sort of finished look that you would want to see. Yes, it does have 5 waves. We counted yesterday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we actually got 6 and 7. So I just don't like how they're overlapping each other, because it could be even worse, like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? It could be a nest of 1, 2s that really accelerate the price at the downside. But there's so much support in here, right, in this point of control. And I'll show you a chart about that. But basically the volume profile is pretty intense right in this level. Basically, this line here at 62.5K right here, I'll make it bigger. That line is basically where the most trading volume is. So that's where most of the liquidity is. So a lot of times the price is drawn to that liquidity, right? Price, it goes up and down, right? Obviously. But the reason why is because it's gravitating towards where the liquidity is. So if there's a lot of liquidity there, like if a lot of people have buy orders here, if a lot of people are waiting to, all the trading history is there, that's usually where price is gravitated towards. So that's probably where we're going, is 62.5K. And we talked about that between 62 and 64K area being that kind of that zone. And right now we barely pierced the top of the zone, right? So we still have all of this empty space in here that we could potentially fill. So just be aware of that. We could have a little bit more downside. But what I would like to see is for this thing to finish, maybe get a bounce, get one more low here, start going sideways, build up a base, right? Maybe even a Wyckoff in here, and then let's break it out, right? And when we go up into the retracement levels, so we're going to be right in the middle of the retracement. This is going to be, a big area to get through. And if we can crack 72.5K and we hold it as support, right? We build maybe a triangle up here or a bull flag. And I really believe we can be on our way, right? And this is going to push us towards, it might be longer than that, the way I've drawn it. It could be a lot longer. I could extend this out let's say till the end of summer, and I'll put it right here about September. And yeah, because if we're getting all of this pressure in summer, that's typical, that's par for the course, I should say, for what crypto likes to do. That sets us up for a good fall and winter, right? Because again, October, November, December is usually the months that crypto does the best. I mean, that's just historical data. That's not me saying that. That's just what the data says. So if we have this summer sideways, boring, they call it a summer lull, right? Basically, you're going sideways. There's no volume, right? People are on vacation, right? Kids are out of school. People who have kids are spending time with families. So there's not a lot of money circulating in the markets in summer. So if you're at a top of a range, you know they'll drop it down to support, and then they'll let it range all summer and then break it out. And that's kind of what was in the back of my mind. But I was really hoping that we could get one more wave here. So one, two, three, four. And then if this was an ABC, we can come up and hit the high for a fifth wave. And then have that ABC all summer long and then take off. So instead of, that was kind of the two options there, where we were going to, hit the high for a fifth wave and then sort of bull flag ABC all summer. It's going to take a while, right? Because you have this wave one, this whole wave one, and then you come down into wave two, and then you go up. But instead, we went down into reaccumulation. So we had a rise, crash, retrace. Now we're going down into reaccumulation. Now we want to go sideways. So as we're going sideways in here, reaccumulating, this is where the altcoins should start finding their supports and start leveling out and start bottoming out, right? So a lot of people are going to be, taking advantage of the blood in the streets, right? Because when you look at the chart, or when we look at the watch list here, I mean, we can see Theta is down 12%. Bitcoin's down 3%. I mean, Filecoin's down 15%. Total 3, right? So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say on Bitcoin here. We'll keep an eye on it. But essentially, it's basically what we always thought it was. A rise, a crash, a retrace, a reaccumulation, sideways, and then we want the breakout. If we start to fall down, then that's when, like I said before, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Then we're going to look towards our last idea, the idea we hope that would have never happened, which is basically backtesting 50K. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is A. Then you have 1, 2, 3, which is B. Then you have 1, 2. Now you're in the middle of that third wave, right? Third wave. You come up for wave 4 and maybe hit wave 5, something like that. Or actually, I did that wrong. So it'd probably be like this. Something like that, right? So a very sharp move to the downside. That gets us way down here to 50K, and then go up from here. And then what that would be is a classic ABC. So if you zoom out, right, you could see right here. So the first idea is idea number 1. Let's not get it mixed up. So that was the first idea, which is the reaccumulation. The second idea, if that idea fails, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, and then C. And then we go up. So as long as we stay above 50K, Bitcoin is still bullish. It still has a big potential to get us out of here, right? So we could be going into the C leg here. So always be aware of that. It might not hold in reaccumulation. If things, just like how people FOMO to the upside, people can FOMO to the downside. And, if that happens, right, you could get a massive candle that takes us down to that 50K area. And then at that point, right, what would the altcoins be doing then? Because if the altcoins are hypersensitive right now, what do you think is going to happen when we come down? Either they're going to be so exhausted that they're going to start to rebound against Bitcoin, or they're going to be, pushing below their lows. So, we'll talk about that when we get there. But we back tested the bull market support band. We still have not yet did it. Let's see the weekly chart here. Yes, so we're very close. You could see we almost back tested the bull market support band. So we're not quite there yet. You could see back over here, right there, we pinpoint nailed the bull market support band. So we only tested it one time. But if we know Bitcoin's history, right, I don't know if this chart goes back that far. No, it doesn't. It's on my other chart. But the bull market support band is very, very important. I mean, you can see back over here, right, all through here, we tested it, we came up, 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 we tested it, right? We tested it a lot, right? So the fact that Bitcoin is barely testing it once is common for it to test it again and again and again. So this is normal. If we break below the bull market support band, then we're obviously not in a bull market, because we've never broken below the bull market support band. Instead, except for this one time back over here where the bull market actually started here. And this was wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and we're probably going up into wave 5. Is wave 5 complete? Well, it doesn't look like it because we only have 3 waves. So we still need another wave to the upside. So you could see here we had a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. We went sideways and then we broke out. So could this happen on a bigger scale is what I'm saying. Yes, it can happen on a bigger scale. So what I mean by that, right, is we could have, right, and we've talked about this as well, a rise, crash, retrace, and then we come all the way back down into reaccumulation, and then we go sideways like that, right? We play around sideways and then go. So that could be, basically between here and here. We don't know how big that range will be if that's the case, right? And this could drag out all year, right? If we have to break below the bull market support band and have to go down into reaccumulation, then it's going to take at least another year, maybe a year and a half to resolve the damage that is done. But it would actually be, there's always, you always got to look at the bright side, right? Because what it's going to do is it's going to give you cheaper prices, number one. Number two, it's going to give you so much more time to accumulate. And number three, you're going to have a lot more coins to show for us when we eventually do continue to rise. Let's get into some other charts here. But just to recap right here, right? This could be rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, breakout. Something easy, small, right? Perfect. Or this could be A, B, C, and then go. Perfect. Or this could be rise, crash, retrace. We come down into reaccumulation, a big, sort of on the bigger scale here, and then go, right? And then worst case scenario, A, B, C, and then go. But I just cannot fathom that unless we have an obliteration in the economy and the stock market, right? So, this move going up, it just doesn't feel normal because there's so many things happening, right? We have election year, we have, the stock market, all of the debt, the inflation, the Federal Reserve, right? It's all this crap that just sort of isn't normal conditions for the market. So the market could be starving for liquidity. Liquidity could be drying up because of all the inflation, because of all the economic heartache. People aren't, investing like they're used to, because they're having to cover their expenses that maybe their business isn't making enough money, right? Maybe their expenses are a lot higher, right? So they have less expendable cash to, to invest. And that's understandable. So we can either whine and complain about it, or we can take advantage of it if the opportunity comes, right? Because we still have this zone here that was never back tested. Now, I did make a video about worst case scenario, black swan event, where we essentially, basically have a free fall down in here, something catastrophic where it just totally annihilates everything. But if that happened, if we got something super, super, super fast like that, then I would really believe the bottom is in, at that point. Because at that point, you have massive liquidation. It would be the biggest liquidation capitulation in Bitcoin's history. I mean, this was a huge capitulation. Look how small that was. This was a huge liquidation. Look how small that was. If we get something like that, it's going to definitely be the best buy of our lives, I think, right? Because of how fast it was. So, you have a crash, you have that V bottom recovery, you have a bull flag, right? You break out, you back test it. That could be the case here. And then you kind of play around, and then it goes up, up, up. And what that could be, guys, if that did happen, is a 1-2, 1-2. That could be very, very, very bullish. So just be very cautious. That could be one of the ideas. It's not my main idea. It's it's not the primary, but it is sort of that black swan, sort of that Joker card, that wild, that basically like a Joker card. You don't know what you're gonna get in that event. So yeah, that's basically it for Bitcoin. The main idea right now is getting into the bull market support band and trying to hash out a bottom in here, right? Let's get some oscillation in here into reaccumulation. If we start forming this, then it's going to look a lot better for it to break out. But if we start impulsing, then I'm going to say, no, we're probably going to do the ABC. The ABC down to 50K and then go, right? So, right. Basically back testing this area down in here. So, but again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So let's jump in to the altcoins now. So let me get to... So total 3 has officially broken below our fractal. I really, really like that fractal. We were following it for a while. It was looking really good, but you know what? Sometimes they just don't play out. And it sucks that we didn't get to see it. But again, when fractals get too long and too correlated, a lot of people start noticing them and start trading with it. And then a lot of times when you have so many bets on one side of the trade, that the fractal, it ends up breaking apart. So let's just put it on real quick. So here's the fractal that we were following, and it was looking really good, right? And we were right here at the bull market support band. We were literally at that do or die area, but it just couldn't hold it, so we got that flush to the downside. So, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. We have to deal with it now. So let's put Bitcoin on side by side here. And we'll get rid of the fractal. We don't need to look at the fractal anymore. And you can see just how much more powerful the altcoins are going down relative to what Bitcoin is doing. So let me get rid of Bitcoin now. If we look at what's going on here, to me it looks like we're doing basically a simple ABC. So we have this move here, right? That's A. And then we have another move here, which is B. And then we have another move here, which is C. So what we want to see in wave C is, this could be either a WXY or it could be an ABC. So essentially, right, we have A, B, C. Let's find the bottom here and then continue higher. That was one of the counts we talked about. Basically said, look, if this fractal fails, which it did, and we can't, and we failed to get through the retracement levels, then we're most likely going to come down and potentially take out this low and backtest, right? So the backtest level would actually be right in this zone in here. So anywhere in that zone, in my opinion, is a good spot for this thing to reverse. And it's actually healthy, right? Because look what happened here. Let me change that back to black. You can see, actually let me just draw it. We had this move up, we had an A, B, C, right? We had this move up, look at here. Same thing. It's actually the same thing here. Let me zoom into this right here. So we had an A, B, C, and we actually came back and we almost back tested this zone in here, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for now, just on a little bit bigger of a scale in here. So just like how, here's your support and here's your support, just like how we back tested these two supports in here, right? Same thing here. We have an A, B, C, and we could be potentially back testing these supports right in here. So we're not quite there yet. So if it is an ABC, we want to have 5 waves. So let's see if we have 5 waves in wave C. So right now, let's see here. So this wave actually took out the top of that one. But on the daily chart, it's actually higher on the daily. So that's weird. That's interesting. So I would say that the daily would triumph the smaller time frame. So you have 1, 2. This whole thing looks like to be wave 3. Now, I don't know if wave 3 is finished yet, but then we're probably going to get some kind of wave 4 and then make our way down to wave 5. That's kind of how I'm thinking here, right? To finish out this wave. Now, could it be finished now? Yeah, it could. Is it likely? Maybe not, considering the fact that Bitcoin has not yet tested the bull market support band. It hasn't gotten down to those areas yet that we're used to seeing. But something like that, right? Some kind of move back down into this backtest area. So what we would have then is, right, an A, B, and a C. And then that would be this whole thing actually would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And this whole thing would be 1, all of this is 2, all of this is 3, all of this is 4, and then we come up and get wave 5. And that's kind of what I'm thinking here. There we go. So that's kind of the count. It's a little bit messy, but it is what it is. We just finished the 3rd wave, and now we're correcting for the 4th wave. So the fourth wave could be, it could be very long and tedious, and that's kind of what we're seeing here, and that's what we've been dealing with. So, that's sort of the main idea is what I'm saying. And since, if Bitcoin goes into that reaccumulation, then we should see some kind of bottom get hashed out in here before continuing to pump to the upside. So that would be idea number one for the entire altcoin market cap, right? Is simply an ABC and get us out of there. So let's say Bitcoin says, you know what, I'm going to go down and backtest 50K, right? Let me put Bitcoin up here. So here's Bitcoin here. So we have A, B, and we come all the way down for C, and we actually backtest this area here and then go up. So in that event, what would the altcoin market cap do in that scenario? Well, in my opinion, we would probably have to throw up our retracements here. So I would just take the retracement from the bottom to the top, and look, we're still so far high up on these retracement levels. So I would imagine anywhere between the 618 retrace to the 786. So this zone right here. And that could exactly where, if it's not a simple ABC, this could be where we're heading, is into that yellow box there. And what that would be, ladies and gentlemen, is reaccumulation. So, for example, we had our rise, we had our rise, we had our crash, we had our retracement. Now we got to come back down into reaccumulation before we go higher, right? That's the second idea. So if the ABC fails, we have this idea, which is reaccumulation. So just be aware of that. So even if Bitcoin drops even below that number, which I can't see that right now, but here's Bitcoin here. Let's say it gets back down to, that 47K, 50K area, then yeah, I'm going to see it get into this level here. If it goes even lower than that and backtest 30K, then, that's still a long shot, right? So we won't really even talk about that yet. I just can't see that happening. If it's going to do something, it's going to come back and retest this level, because look, we built this massive base here, guys. This is a lot of price movement in here. Change that to green. So this area right here, we built a base, right? We broke out of that base with a 5-wave move, right? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We broke out of it with a 5-wave move. So it is possible that we can come all the way back down and back test the top of this range here. So let me just put a line somewhere right in here. And that actually lines up perfectly right in the middle of this green box, like identical, right? And then you also have another line down in here. So somewhere in that level there. So if that's the case, then let me show you what we're dealing with now. So I would imagine that, again, I don't want to just keep repeating myself, but this would definitely be a nice rise crash. We built our base in here. That's important, right? Because if it was a V-bottom recovery, then we're more at risk of being an ABC, right? But since we built this long base in here and we broke out of that base, then the probabilities significantly increase that we're going to, stay above and go into reaccumulation right in here. So just like how you came down, you're building layers and layers and layers. You break out, you come down, you build layers and layers and layers, you break out. So you're basically stepping up the ladder here. So we're still a ways away from that. So we'll keep monitoring it. That's why I said we're at an inflection point. And now the inflection point, unfortunately, went the way we didn't really want it to go. But at least it showed its hand, and at least we know now what the deal was. Because if, you know, this week here, I said basically determine the next probably 6 months to a year of what's going to happen. Because we were either, you know, going to do this and then break out in here. But now we have to come back down, maybe go into reaccumulation before breaking out. So the time difference is going to be a lot. It's going to be longer in time. Hopefully not by too much. So, but again, it's only Tuesday. We still have a lot of time left in the week here. So who knows? We might get a nice bullish hammer candle in here, but it's looking very unlikely that that's the case. So other than that, that's about it. Now I'm going to jump into some individual coins, A, B, C again. So just a real quick recap here. We have either an A, B, C, right? We come down here and then we kind of accumulate a little bit and then go. Basically simple idea. The other idea is if we break that, then it's going to look like something like this. It could be a complex correction. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a bigger ABC, guys. That would be a double zigzag, right? Or a triple zigzag. You see what I mean? So basically this whole move was the A wave. This is B, this is C. And that's just another form of reaccumulation. So it's the same thing. We have a rise, crash, retrace. We go down into reaccumulation. The difference is how we get there. Do we get there capitulating? Do we get there in a zigzag, right? And then we sort of, after that we go into reaccumulation. So it could be a simple ABC, continue higher, or it can be a more complex ABC that actually gets us back down here to back test this level in here. So, but I'll tell you one thing, guys. If we do get back down in here, that's why you want to preserve your cash, right? Preserve your cash. You know how much you make a month. You know how much you make a year. You know how much money you have to spend on your expenses, your bills, and things like that. So you know how much money you have to invest. So what I would say is, kind of balance that out and look towards the future here. Because if we get something like this and we're down in here in the slumps, everybody's very bearish. We're never, we're going to be in a bear market for the rest of our lives, right? Because, if we do have to come down here, it's going to take a lot more time. So this is a lot more time that you have to be earning more paychecks, to be spending more money, right? Maybe some people don't want to. Maybe some people are like, you know what? I'm not going to spend 1 penny more until the market proves itself to me, right? So, to me, that philosophy is wrong, because if you believe in crypto, you believe in it, right? The price really dictates everybody's belief, right? So it doesn't matter what the fundamentals say, the utility, right? If price is dumping, people don't believe in it. But I have to tell you one thing, is crypto is here to stay, right? I mean, we've been through this before. It's the same thing that happened over here, right? We came down, we had a big pump, it was looking good, but then we had to come all the way back down again and then go sideways in here before we can go up. Same thing here. We're going up, it's looking good, we come all the way down, we go sideways before going up. But here's the thing that I'm saying here. Look at the way this went up. We didn't have a base. We had this little tiny thing right here. That was nothing. That's why I'm confident that this is going to turn out into our favor, because look how big this base is. We actually had a foundation here. This was no foundation. That's why I had to come all the way back down and test the lows. But since we have the foundation, we might not have to do that. Instead, we could, we can maybe just back test it and go into some reaccumulation before going higher, right? So we might not have to get that big drop like we did before because we have that big base. So again, if you have conviction in what crypto and the technology is, and the use case, the fundamental, the utility value is only going to go up from here, right? As technology progresses, so will use cases. And, we barely just got a Bitcoin ETF, and the Ethereum ETF hasn't even started trading yet. And we barely got the House passing the crypto bill. So we're still very early in this whole crypto thing. So yes, people are in a rush. They want it to happen now. But again, the longer it takes, the more you're able to accumulate, and the less of the price you'll need to actually have that life-changing wealth. Because that's why we're all here, right? So you got to have tremendous patience, right? And then also, if it did shoot up from here, and you sold, you would have made X amount of dollars. But if it went down and then it had to go into reaccumulation, you would have had a lot more coins in your bag. And then when it goes up, you would have way much more to spend, right? So, not financial advice, nothing I say is. I'm just saying that's my philosophy. That's how I think. It's always treated me right. Especially, we know how crypto cycles work. And we're basically in the toughest spot, which is that, the decision time. Do we go into the retracement levels? Do we get through them, or do we have to go back into reaccumulation and then make another attempt at getting through those retracement levels? So it's looking like, we got rejected by the retracement levels, and now we're coming back down. So back in October, right here, that's when I started making videos, and that's when I said we're most likely going into a retracement. So far we accomplished that. Now, once we get to the retracements, either we flag out, break out, or we have to come all the way down into reaccumulation. So let's get to Theta. So Theta, again, the same thing here back in October, basically saying we need to come up into a retracement level. So Theta actually got into a retracement, but it didn't get a full retracement level like Total 3 did. But again, as long as Total 3 got there, that's, basically the big signal. I mean, and we have to look at Theta like Theta did a lot better than a lot of these other coins that are still in the range here. So what I'm thinking here for the price of Theta, and, if you fast forward the video, hopefully you watch the whole video, because it'll definitely explain, my reasoning here especially on Bitcoin and on Total 3. Very important. But essentially, right, we came down in our bear market, we built our base right here, and we're essentially back testing it now. So let me put it right about there. So this is a pinpoint nail, almost, not quite, back test right in here. So this is actually a good thing. Let me actually get to the smaller time frame. We can see it a little bit better. There we go. So, we're right in our back test level. So this is the point where we should start finding a bottom. One of the things I said was the top of here, which is about $1.50, $1.45, and to the bottom area, which is about $1.15, $1.13. And right now we're sitting at $1.37, so we got some wiggle room here in this backtest level. This backtest level was very important, right? Because this was basically the whole Wyckoff structure. It was also the inverse head and shoulders structure, right? So We have wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4. I want to see wave 5. If not, then here's the thing. In order to get a 1-2-1-2, this price has to go below wave 1, right? So it did. And now we can qualify that for a 1-2-1-2. So one of the things I was saying for Theta is, well, either we're going to have, a rise, crash, we have a retracement, we go down in reaccumulation, breakout, or it's going to be an A, B, C. And that's exactly what we got here as an ABC. Now, I wish it would have held the bull market support band, right? We didn't know it was going to be an ABC. That was one of the ideas. But I definitely was buying the bull market support band. And if you were buying in this range, that is not, I still would have bought that area, because when you get to the bull market support band after a wave like this, you don't know if it's going to continue to pump. The fact that it dumped to the downside, well, that sort of, when you reflect on it, well, did we dollar cost average? Yes. Do we have, did we blow all of our money here, and now that we're dumped down here, now we have no money to invest? Well, hopefully that wasn't you. And if it was, at least you learned, right, not to do that. Again, it's all about how much expendable cash you have per month to invest in crypto as you continue to accumulate, right? Because we're still in a bear market until we get through those retracement levels. And during bear markets, that's where millionaires are made, right? We all want to be millionaires. That's why we're all here. To hopefully at some point we can get there, right? And the only way to get there is to have as many coins as you can possibly have. But a lot of people feel uncomfortable with owning too much, investing too much, because they don't want to lose it, and rightfully so. But again, that's where the conviction comes in. That's where, basically you're separating, the old saying, the men from the boys, right? I mean, are you gonna take that risk? That's not for me to say. I definitely am gonna take the risk in this area, because it is a technical level, right? Look at all of this resistance. We broke out of it, so now it should act as support. It should definitely act as support. We had a beautiful ABC, number 1, right? And then we backtest number 2, right? So, for me, that's significant enough to start accumulating. So what I want to see here is a bottom get hashed out in here, right? And then start making an attempt back to the upside. And then once we start this wave down, once we start retracing that wave, that's going to be the big deciding factor, because I do believe we're going to get back to that $2 area at some point. So I don't know how that's going to look right now. We're just going to have to allow time to pass to see what sort of pattern shapes up here before we get, before we make another attempt. But we could stay down here all summer. We'll find out. But yeah, it's nothing to panic about. If you feel like selling, you do what you got to do. But in my opinion, this would be the worst time to sell, because of where we just landed. We basically back tested this level. So, but let me show you, like when we look at ADA, this is actually a really, a sort of a technical level here, because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had a 5-wave move to the downside, right? And that 5 waves actually landed us right in here, right where all this zone is, which is good, right? So let's look at a couple other coins. If we look at Ethereum, we could see this either is going to be an A, B, C back testing down here and then continue to go, or this is going into reaccumulation, just like Bitcoin: rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, right? We're about to back test the bull market support band, so it's looking good. SHIB, 3-wave move down. It could, SHIB can fall a lot further because it broke out a lot stronger. But let me get to XRP here. Now XRP is still holding the lows. It still hasn't, taken out this low yet. So that's, a sign of life there. But essentially with XRP, we wanted to see either this be a WXY or an ABC, which this would be the C leg. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then the whole thing is A, B, and then C. And then we get that final low here. And that sort of matches up with what we've been thinking. So when we go to like things like Matic, same thing. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you look at ADA, you look at Matic, you look at Filecoin. They basically all have that 5 waves down, and that basically that 5th wave here that took out this low, right? So that's what really drives people bearish, right? And that's what makes people want to sell, is because they just went through all that. Like, back over here, we've been following since March 13th. And that's actually the anniversary of when C19 occurred. Isn't that kind of funny? C19 marked the bottom in March 13th, right? But then March 13th, 2024, it actually marked the top. So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, we've been following since March 13th. So all of March, April, May, and now June. So, about 3 or 4 months we've been following. And what that does is it's destroying the sentiment. It's destroying the psychology. It's making people shake out all the weak hands, right? And what happens is, right, you get that first wave, people are complacent. You get that second wave, and now everybody's panicking. But then you start ranging, and then people get complacent again, and then bam, you have that final flush down, and that's when people say, you know what, I can't take it anymore, I'm selling. But that's actually the end of the wave. Now, I'm not saying this is the end of the wave. I'm just saying usually when you get 5 waves, right, this, somewhere in this area is where we start to hash out a bottom and actually get a reversal, right? So we're either going to have something like this, where we get a 3-way move back to the upside and then back down, or we'll hash out a bottom and start grinding our way back to the upside and breaking out. So, you could see a lot of coins getting back into their, their back test level, or really back into the support. You could see VeChain had 1, 2, 3, 4, and we had this big 5th wave here, right? That just crushed us to the downside. But look how far away the price is from the bull market support band. So if you go back through history, it's never been that far away. Sometimes when you're capitulating, it does get pretty far away here, right? But during this dip, we're getting pretty extended away from the bull market support band, which basically is, a lot of good opportunities. So similar to what happened here, you could see we had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And what we did, right, is we created a base. We broke out of the base, we came down, and we back tested the base. Same thing here. We have a base, we broke out of the base, and now we're coming back down to back test the base. So it's up to the crypto gods if we're going to hold that area. But I think eventually, probably within the next couple weeks, we should find a bottom. Even it could be this week here, right? Because we're moving pretty fast. So the faster we move, like let's just rip the Band-Aid off, get that quick sudden capitulation, maybe a little bit lower, hash out a bottom, go sideways, and then we're looking pretty dang good for upside. Theta Fuel is also at a technical level. We're also, right, we basically that running flat we had there kind of didn't work out. So what I'm thinking now is it's actually a bigger, potentially a bigger running flat here. So we have A, This is B, this is C. So we're creating an expanded flat here, which is very bullish, right? Before we had an A, B, C here with a 1, 2, and then we go. But that wasn't the count, right? I liked it because of the fractal here, but it actually didn't work out. But what it actually was doing is creating a bigger flat, right? So what we have here for Theta Fuel is we're back testing this level, which is very, very good. That's what we want to see. And then we're also coming off of a C leg off of this ABC, right? So A, B, and then C. Maybe C's not finished. Maybe we have a little bit more down to go, but I think we're getting close. I mean, you can see how long we've been falling here, right? We've been falling since back here in April. So just going down, 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 down. And then we had this big engulfing candle down. So this is usually when the time we start, again, hashing out some bottoms in here and start, all of this support in here, or all of this resistance, we broke out. Now we're making it new support. But it's got to prove itself. It's got to prove itself. So let it prove itself. Allow it time to back test in that level. And then eventually, hopefully, we can get the hell out of there. But until next time, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Do you think we have way more downside? Do you think a bottom is close? Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And it's probably, you probably don't feel so good today, right? It probably doesn't feel that good. But you know what? I've been there many, many times. But when you look, as things settle down, as you continue to accumulate, right? Just keep working your job. Keep going to work every day, working your job, getting that paycheck, right? Taking a percentage of it and investing. That's what I'm doing, right? And then eventually, over time, it's going to build. And you're going to look back, from maybe a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 years from now. And you're going to look back and you're going to say, I am so happy that it came all the way down because I was able to buy so much more. And you could say, well, I don't have, a lot of expendable cash. Yeah, but if we go sideways here for say 6 weeks, I mean, that's 6 weeks worth of income that you could potentially, a percentage of that, right? That you could have potentially invested. And then, so what I'm basically saying is think long term. Think about what your future self would want, right? Your present self wants it to move now, but your future self would have said, no, hopefully we went down so I had more time to accumulate, right? Because if you think your bags are packed, right? I thought my bags were packed back in 2018. I thought, you know what? My bags are packed. But if we went to the moon in 2018, and I look back today, I would have thought, man, I really didn't have that much, right? So, it's all about perspective at the end of the day. And with that, just be cautious because, again, crypto is a risky asset. You're basically taking a risky situation and making it even more risky because of, crypto is one of the most riskiest sectors. But it's actually the most, in my opinion, one of the best sectors to be in because of the volatility, right? You want big volatility to the downside because the bigger volatility to the downside means big volatility to the upside. And if you look, let's just look at Theta Fuel for a second, you can see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this 5-wave move to the upside, and then you can see this huge base here, right? And you could see the price is actually retesting that base. So when you're in a base that long, 2 to 3 years, and you break out, it's kind of important to come down and back test it to confirm that support. So then you can start continuing higher, right? So we're not out of the woods. We barely entered the woods. let's let some time pass and see what tomorrow brings. And it's probably not going to bring much. But yes, I think we're probably in for sort of a gruel, like sort of a like a sideways grueling summer. So we'll see how this plays out, but I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.